The 90s were a weird time for beer. Not your grandfather's beer, and not craft beer yet. This was the in-between. Big brands still owned everything. But underneath, everything was shifting. Grunge killed the 80s. The internet was coming. Technology was accelerating. Beer culture was caught between nostalgia for something simpler and the pull towards something completely new. Here is what nobody says. Some of the beers you loved in the 90s did not just fail, they destroyed themselves. The story will surprise you. And once you taste more, once you understand what is possible, you can't go back. It worked for 5 minutes. Then everything changed. Budweiser already owned everything. The king of beers, default beer, no questions asked. If you didn't think about beer, you drank Budweiser. It was the baseline. So in 1990, they launched Bud Dry. It lasted until 2010. Technical, modern, dry brewing process. That was the whole pitch. They spent millions on marketing this idea that dryness was innovation. The slogan was, "Why ask why? Try Bud Dry." People liked it. Sales were solid. The beer worked. Then Bud Ice showed up in 1994. Ice beer had a story. Frozen, stronger, edgier. Marketing that screamed at you instead of asking politely. Suddenly Bud Dry was not interesting anymore. Same company, same distributor network, but Bud Ice promised more. Something stronger, something that actually meant something. Here is the brutal lesson. In the 90s, excitement beat reliability. Novelty beat competence. Every time. Why did people forget Bud Dry? Because something more exciting came along. Bud Dry was quietly discontinued in 2010. Forgotten. Gone. It is the most 90s beer ever made. All optimization, zero soul. What made people laugh at Zima? Zima, from 1993 to 2008. It came in a clear bottle, lightly carbonated, and it tasted like Sprite plus regret. Coors spent $50 million marketing this. That was insane money for a single product launch in the early 1990s. They flooded television with ads, and they made it impossible to ignore. Everyone tried it. It became a phenomenon almost overnight. This was the clear craze, clear cola, clear everything. Clarity equals purity, clarity equals future. That's what people believed back then. Zima exploded because it let you drink without being a beer person. You could fit in without pretending to enjoy something bitter or heavy. You could just drink something clear and sweet. For like 2 years, it was everywhere, at parties, at bars, on billboards. Then David Letterman called it liquid polymer. Overnight, what was cool became a joke. Night after night, millions of people watched as one of the biggest comedians in America mocked it relentlessly. The culture turned on it. Sales collapsed. By the mid-1990s, Zima's moment had passed. Here's what's fascinating. Hard seltzers today follow the exact same blueprint. White Claw, truly, clear, light, refreshing, approachable. They're spiritual descendants of Zima 25 years later, and now it's cool again. Zima was too early. Perfect timing is everything. How did a beer become a revolution? Peet's Wicked Ale from 1986 to 2011 did not come in the 90s, but it became something in the 90s. For thousands of people, this was the first beer that tasted like something real, something complex, dark, rich. Not a light lager trying to be refreshing. Something that tasted like someone actually cared about the flavor. It had personality. The branding was not trying too hard. It felt like an accident, like Pete Slowsberg just cared about making good beer. There was a dog on the label, purple packaging. It stood out for being weird, not for being cool. And here is what mattered. Pete's taught people that beer could taste like more than beer. In a market where everything was light and boring and interchangeable, suddenly there were chocolate notes, caramel, spice, complexity. It was a gateway. People drank Peet's and thought, oh, beer can be this. By the early 90s, Peet's Brewing was the second largest craft brewery in America. Only Boston Beer Company sold more. That is incredible for a brand that started in someone's kitchen. Then the craft explosion hit in the 2000s. IPAS, extreme flavors, breweries on every corner. Suddenly, Peet's felt tame. It felt like training wheels. It felt like the beginning of something, not the destination. The brand was sold in 1998. The recipe was adjusted. They tried to modernize it to compete with the new wave of craft beers getting more aggressive and extreme. The magic died. Production ended in 2011. But here is the brutal thing. Peet's did not fail because it was bad. It failed because it was too good at its job. It created the very appetite that destroyed it. Why did something perfect become forgotten? Miller Genuine Draft, introduced in 1985 and still around today, was that year's answer to everything. Cold filtered, not pasteurized, draft taste in a bottle. That promise mattered in an era obsessed with authenticity. The ads were cinematic, dim lighting, jazz clubs, urban landscapes, sophisticated imagery. They made you feel like you understood something about the world just by drinking the beer. MGD hit the sweet spot, premium enough to feel special, cheap enough to buy regularly. You could afford it, but it did not feel cheap. It made you feel like you had taste without actually having to have taste. Just buy the beer with the story, and you have sophistication. By 1988, MGD was 3% of the entire US beer market. That is enormous for a beer that did not even exist 3 years earlier. Then craft beer arrived and changed what real meant. Suddenly, people wanted to know the brewmaster's name. They wanted to visit the brewery. They wanted a story that came from somewhere authentic, not from a television commercial. The whole promise of MGD was built on advertising, on the idea that branding could make you feel sophisticated. But once people tasted actual craft beer made by actual humans who actually cared about flavor, that promise evaporated. MGD did not crash. It faded like a song you loved in high school until you heard it again years later and realized it was always kind of empty. It still exists, but culturally it belongs to the 90s, a time when advertising could convince you that what you were feeling was what you were tasting. How do you kill something by buying it? Rolling Rock was founded in 1939 and its soul died in 2006. Quirky, mysterious. That green bottle was unmistakable. The 33 on the label that nobody could decode. For decades, people argued about what it meant. That mystery was part of the appeal. It felt imported, even though it wasn't. It had personality, real personality, not manufactured, not designed by a marketing department. Just there, genuinely cool. It thrived in college towns and dive bars. Not because of fancy marketing, but because it was cool by accident and because it felt authentic. Then, in 2006, Anheuser-Busch bought it for $82 million. Production moved from Latrobe, Pennsylvania to Newark, New Jersey. They said the recipe would stay the same. It didn't. The water in Newark is not mountain spring water. It is not the same. By 2015, they stopped brewing bottled Rolling Rock in glass-lined tanks altogether. Rolling Rock still exists, but what made it special? That stayed in the 1990s. That is what happens when big companies buy personality. They don't understand it, and so they kill it. Here is what the 90s actually taught us. These beers did not fail. They were stepping stones. They were teachers. They taught drinkers how to taste flavor, how to notice complexity, how to expect more from what they consumed. And once that door opened, once people started asking questions, there was no closing it. That is why 90s beers feel frozen in time. They belong to a moment when branding led and taste followed. Today, it is flipped. Taste leads. Consumers choose based on flavor, on story, on what they have actually experienced. Not what a commercial told them to feel, but the 90s set that in motion. Drop a comment, your first beer, your dad's favorite, your 90s moment. Do not let these memories fade. If this hit you, hit subscribe. New videos every week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for remembering the 90s with me.